Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and today I'm excited to be joined by Izzy G to talk all about the Hulu series Under the Bridge. And starting off, I was interested in kind of like the materials and the space that you use to get into this character because it's such a complex character to have to play with so many elements. And I was interested if you were reading Rebecca Godfrey's book and her writing in addition to the scripts, or like what were some of the research materials that you started with just to get into that headspace of Kelly?
Yeah, so when I had first gotten this audition, I immediately went down the rabbit hole of the internet basically. I had used, Kelly Ellard, this one, Kelsey Ellard, like trying to figure out who this girl was, and that was the difficult part, I think, because the only thing that I could really find was Killer Kelly, Killer Kelly, Killer Kelly, and I did read Rebecca's book, actually. I did read Rebecca's book, but I mean, it really was difficult because it was so hard to find who she was as a person. That was a really, really hard thing for me. Because I mean, I know what she's done. I know how she acts. I know this, I know that, but I don't know how to humanize her. I don't know how to make her into a real human being. And I really did have the support from Quinn and Samir and all the directors throughout that. And at the end of the day, I really did decide, I'm gonna play what I relate to most, a 15-year-old girl who, not this part I relate to, but the 15-year-old girl part of, a troubled and disturbed 15-year-old girl, basically.
And that idea that you were bringing up there of like trying to figure out how to humanize her is such an interesting one because there's definitely two different versions of her that project into the world. There's the version that we see with her friends and the dark places that she can go to, but then it's also we see her mom being like, oh, she's always been a great student, she's never come home after curfew, she's always been super polite and well behaved, and that's all they've ever seen. They've never seen the other side. And so
Oh
how
yeah.
did you kind of think about the two different versions and the spaces where we'd see different sides of her?
Well, with Kelly, one thing that we portrayed in our show is that, she's very, very smart. She's very, very manipulative. She can weave her way around people so easily. So I think with her parents, as long as she keeps up that facade of being that good little girl, they can get away with anything. Like she knows that. She knows that she's aware that she could go do something so stupid with her friends, but as long as she's back by 9 o'clock, they can't say anything. Her parents can have proof she's back at 9 o'clock. She didn't do anything bad. She's not this, she's not that. Which was a whole entire issue, was because she was such a good girl. That's why it was so difficult, because she was so good. So I think she's really intelligent and she knows that, and she really does use that to her advantage.
And obviously so much of what's at play for her is her friendship with Josephine, and the two of you play that so fantastically, and I love how often there's just all these looks and glances exchanged between the two of you. It's like, are we going to do this? Yeah, we're going to do this. And there's entire dialogues back and forth and like secrets being shared
Oh
constantly.
yeah.
And I was just interested in how you said about just like making sure that that was always in play and just kind of building up all those different glances and looks for the audience.
Oh yeah. With Kelly and Joe, I mean, one thing about Kelly is that because she has to be that little like good girl and stuff like that, she can't really be who she is with her parents. She kind of has Joe to be that, like, you're allowed to be who you are and I accept you. Like I don't care how crazy you are, like I love you. Like that's kind of the vibe that they both bring. They really do bounce off of each other. So, and they've been friends for like a really long time. Like that's what people don't really realize, is that they've been friends since they were kids, like babies. But Joe really did give her that permission to be herself, and we really did work on that a lot, that connection between me and Chloe for Kelly and Josephine. I mean, we had rehearsals upon rehearsals upon rehearsals just to get that connection right. And I'm really happy that we ended up finding it. Because like I'm watching it and I'm like, oh my gosh, these girls are so twisted. Like, wow.
It's really interesting what you bring up as well about the fact that they've obviously both known each other since they were kids. And if you think about it, Kelly has seen Jo go through so much in her life. She's seen everything that she went through with her mom and everything that caused her to go into Sevenoaks and be in a care home. And so did you think that with the fact in the storyline that we see, there's an element of like protectiveness that Kelly has for Jo, that's just always been part of their friendship with everything that she's always seen over the years?
Well, yeah, I mean, 100%. I think with, Kelly, she loves Josephine as much as any best friend would love their best friend, you know? I mean, she would seriously do anything to protect that girl, like anything. And that's very clear in our show. We very much so get to that point in that show. But I think with Kelly, she also kind of related to Josephine because again, while they put up this facade of, you know, the happy home family life, it wasn't necessarily like that behind closed doors. Kelly's biological father, it's I'm looking for the word. It's not hinted to, but it's like kind of her biological dad may have abused her biological mother, so they probably she had witnessed that, and it's like not sure if this part's true, but she might have sustained abuse from her stepbrother. Not sure about that part, but maybe not. Just in the research that I was doing and some of the information that I was given, so I feel like, you know, to be able to share that with someone, to be able to have that connection with someone, for someone to understand what she's gone through as well, being Joe, you know, she again was really able to just be herself around her.
Definitely. And then there's kind of the other added aspect where it feels like for Kelly, there's a lot of jealousy at play as well. And I was curious, kind of like, if you found her to be a character that was quite insecure because she presents as incredibly confident, but it's almost like you see the insecurity whenever she feels like her position as Joe's best friend is being threatened in any way by anyone else.
Mm. I think with Kelly, again, it's that protectiveness that she has over Joe. You know, I feel like she kind of knows her place with Josephine. She knows where she stands with Josephine. She always has. I don't think it's more so jealousy that, you know, someone's going to replace her. I think she's more so upset that they want to replace her. You know what I mean? Like, it's more so like, you really think you could do that? Like, let's be realistic. I think it's more so that than it really is like jealousy. But I think there's also that a little bit in it. There's also a little bit of jealousy, you know, with Rebecca and Josephine, you know, with how close that they're going and the idea that she would go to New York with her. That's obviously a bit of jealousy. The fact that, you know, she's leaving her, that's Josephine's her whole world, you know, and the idea that that could be gone so quick definitely does probably scare her a bit. But yeah, no, I feel like it's a lot of protectiveness and a hint of jealousy for sure.
No, I think that's such a great point as well. And I was interested in kind of how you viewed Kelly's response to Rebecca, Riley Keough's character, because she's not as warm and kind of excited by the idea of this adult kind of infiltrating their teenage circle as some of the others are. She's more cautious and is like, she hangs out with cops, like this is someone that I don't trust.
Oh yeah, no, I think Kelly can see right through people. She definitely can see right through people. She saw through Rebecca. Like she's been childhood friends with a cop. Are you like, there's no way, you know, like that's what's going through her head. Like she's looking at Josephine and she's like, dude, like I thought we could only, you said that we could only trust each other. Like, what are you doing? Like, I feel like it's just like she thinks about things a lot before she does things, you know, and I know that sounds crazy, but in our show she really does. And I feel she sees through people. She can read people so easily that she was able to pick up on Rebecca so fast.
Definitely. And in talking about the show as well, I thought it was so interesting, and this is diving into the spoiler territory of this series with Kelly. I thought it was so interesting how early on they revealed to the audience that she was the killer, and it's done with certainty. It's not trying to spend the rest of the season kind of leading us down different potential threads. And did that kind of change the way that you felt like you were able to approach your performance? Because I imagine at the beginning, you know, you want to play to it, but you want to make sure you're not showing your hand too much to the audience for them to figure it out with certainty until the show reveals that.
Oh yeah, that was definitely one of the most difficult parts, was trying to be one of the twisted teenagers without being too twisted, so that way it doesn't make people feel like she could be a suspect. Like that was kind of the whole entire thing, is that we wanted it to be like, what the heck? Like, oh, no way, you know? And especially in the writing, they really helped with that as well. By obviously in the first two episodes, I'm not really present. So the idea that this girl from nowhere just kind of came in and is all of a sudden this big lead in the whole entire scene, and it was just like it gave the viewers confusion, basically, is what we wanted, you know. But yeah, I think that was one of the most difficult parts, was trying to keep that light in the beginning and then really unfolding everything towards the end.
And with the reveal obviously being the fact that she took Reena's shoes, and that being the
Mhm.
catalyst to her friends being like, oh, you're the one that did it, and now we know. I was so interested in that detail, because even when they describe what happened, it's always the first thing that she did was take the shoes for Joe. And I was interested in just how you interpreted the fact that that was such importance to her.
Oh yeah, I mean, with Kelly, like, she thinks through things, you know, but she does it with such like an innocent thought. It could be the most twisted thing ever, but it's just like, it doesn't, it's not like, she's like, okay, you know, like with the boots. Joe wanted the boots. Why wouldn't I take the boots? They're not Rena's anymore. They're mine. Why wouldn't I take the boots? That's what's going through her thought process when she sees them. She's like, Josephine said she liked them. I will get them for her. Like, she doesn't think about how that could be such a big aspect towards the end of it, but she thinks about it. Josephine liked them, you know? So I think, yeah. Yeah.
And in the later couple of episodes, we get to see flashbacks to the night when everything happened. And it's actually incredibly jarring to see how much Kelly is enjoying the violence in the moment in your performance. And it's something that other characters reference in their testimony to law enforcement as well. Everybody's like, it seemed like she really liked it. And I was very curious about your experience in filming scenes like that, because I imagine it's quite a challenging scene to film, and also just so specific to have to tap into that for her.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, that was really, really difficult to shoot as well because, you know, Tika as well. Like, I love Tika. She's so brilliant. She really did help with the fact that it's okay. Like, you're playing a character. I love you. We love you. Like, you're a great person. Like, I love you so much, you know, and she's a brilliant actor. She's a brilliant person. And you know, to kind of have her support throughout those scenes and how rough those scenes were, you know, it was definitely needed. Like I always say, those were especially the scenes where we all really did come together, because like I remember being in ADR and the night where we were going under the bridge and stuff and pushing her and the satellite, like I started crying. Like I was like, oh my gosh, because like you remember filming that, and you remember it being difficult, and the idea that this happened and this is real, and it's like, while this is heavily based on, this is based off of, you know, it's still based off of a true story. And it's like, I mean, it got dark, you know, especially like it really did get dark for me. And I, towards the end, I really did have to kind of find who I was again, because I was like, I was in Vancouver. I wasn't in my home. I wasn't around my friends. I wasn't really doing the things that I love. I was kind of like in a place that I didn't really like know, you know, and to play such a dark character. And yeah, I definitely had to find myself after playing this character for sure.
I imagine that one of the other scenes that was probably quite challenging to film as well is there's the entire sequence of events where Kelly and Joe are basically initially planning to poison Dusty, and then they're like, oh, she's spiraling so much that maybe we can just convince her to take things into her own hands. And there's that scene on the train tracks with the two of you, and then the moment where Joe pulls Dusty back at the last minute and is like, don't do this, like I don't want to be responsible for it. Was that also kind of like an equally really challenging scene that also at the same time brought the three of you together a lot?
And that was really intense. That was a really intense scene. It was so cold out too, because it's freaking Vancouver. It snows all the time. But I mean, it was really, really cold and we were tired and we had to walk up these massive rocks and high heels. And then, you know, it's like, yeah, but brilliant performances. I just watched that scene and I'm like, wow. Like I started crying. I was like, no, like please don't, you know, like I love you. You know, like it was really, really intense, but that's another one where we all really came together and really did support each other.
And is it also quite tough for a scene like that as well? Because, you know, on a personal level, it's such an emotional scene to have to kind of watch play out in front of you, even though you're in character in the moment. But at the same time, Kelly's so stoic a lot of the time. She has this real ability to like conceal her emotions in a lot of the show.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's really difficult because when you read it, it's like, ugh, whoa, like that's like really twisted. And then when you're kind of acting it, you have to lose yourself in those scenes, whether you kind of want to or not. But you really do lose yourself, and then after you cut, you're like, oh, you know. And it's like there's that during that scene actually, there was a look that Kelly gave to Joe where she was like she's doing it, like we did it, you know. And it's like you don't really realize that you pick up on those things, that you do those things until like you rewatch it because you're so lost in that scene, in that moment. Ayanna, Chloe, me, all lost in that scene, and you don't like really realize it until you rewatch it, and you're like, wow, like that's brilliant. Like watching Ayanna sob. Like I remember shooting that. I remember like Quinn talking to her. I remember Quinn talking to me, and then Chloe. I love you, Quinn. By the way, you're brilliant. Um, like I remember that, and I remember the direction. And I remember how she would like be like, and you're gonna die. You're gonna die, and it's not this and 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 it like really gets you in the moment, you know. And it's like, oh my gosh. And she did the same for me. She did the same for Chloe. And it's like it really does matter with directors as well to really get you into that scene, into that vibe for sure. And seriously, thank you to her.
No, I love even you bringing up that specific look because I can see that exact scene in that moment in my mind because it was so visceral the way that they exchange glances. I was also curious because it kind of feels like Kelly, like you were saying earlier, kind of like Kelly's always known how to get away with things. And so once they're actually brought down to the police station and things become very different and very real, did you feel like she kind of ever really fully absorbed the reality of what was happening and the fact that she was backed into a corner, or do you think that she still always thought that there was going to be a way out?
No, there was 100% always a way out for Kelly. It was always something else could happen. And I mean, it did. That's the thing. Like it did though. Like she did use that manipulative tactics. Like she did get out. She was on parole. She is on parole. Like it's like she's so aware of those things, and she's so able to manipulate people so easily. I mean, if you watch it in 8, the judge even says, Kelly, I mean, you're a good kid, you know, you don't deserve that much. So like the idea of her not getting what she wants just isn't there. Like she always does. It always works for her. It always goes the way that she sees it.
No, I totally agree with you. And you know, in talking about episode 8 and those court scenes, it was so interesting to watch Kelly have those moments where she does let the anger rise to the surface in front of people. And there is that moment where she kind of is quite agitated by the lawyer and she kind of can't keep it under control. And then she just starts repeating the same things about, you know, I didn't go under the bridge, I didn't kill her. And so I wanted to ask about just kind of going into
Oh yeah.
that sequence of events and filming those moments.
That was the one time in this show that you really saw Kelly realize that she was caught. That is the one time that you'll see where Kelly was like, oh my God, what do I do? You know, that was really the first time. And that's what was so difficult was I really wanted her to lose herself. I really wanted her to lose herself and kind of forget who she was, forget the crowd that she was in, forget the good girl that she had to be. Like, I really wanted her to show who she really was for like one of the first times in the show to a bunch of people. And I mean, shooting it too really did help because Kevin, who directed it, brilliant, love you, Kevin. He really did help, but also what helped was the hundreds of people sitting in the crowd as I'm filming it as well. Cause like not only did that scare me, but I kind of used that to put into Kelly of like, can't say the wrong thing, you know? And it's like when you finish the scene and then you look at all of the people who are kind of shocked at what just happened, like you feel like, oh, you know, and that's kind of just what I imagined her to feel was just like kind of being caught in that moment, you know?
For sure. And how do you feel that the dynamic in the relationship between Kelly and Joe changes towards the end of the season? Because, you know, there's the whole thing where she says, you know, I killed Reena. I did this for you. You're the reason I did this. But then we see that the moment that she's brought into the police station, we hear that tape, and then it becomes self-protective mode, and it's, I did this for you, but I'm also not afraid to throw you under the bus in order to protect myself at the end of the day.
Oh yeah. I mean, the moment that Kelly really lost respect for Josephine was that train scene. That's why it was also another reason why it was difficult to shoot, was because all the respect that she had for Joe was gone. She realized that Josephine was a poser and Kelly was not. Kelly would do whatever and Josephine wouldn't. And that's what she really did realize in that moment. So like, you know, um, in the jail scene and stuff like that, where she slaps her forehead and then she walks away, or when she calls the police and says Josephine did it, it's because every single ounce of respect of power that Josephine had was gone for her.
Well, it was a really, really fascinating performance to watch throughout the series, and terrifying in a brilliant way. So congratulations on the show, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.